Algebra Chapter 2, and we're looking at Lessons 1 and 2. We've looked at sets of numbers. Now let's look at how we put those numbers on the number line. Now, each of the graphs below shows a set of numbers on the number line. The number below the point is its coordinate. Alright, so it's very important. The number below the point is what we call the coordinate of the number, or the coordinate of the point. Now, a couple things about this number line. What I want you to understand is that this line itself, the whole line all together, represents the big box, all the real numbers. Alright, all the real numbers. When you draw a number line, what you're essentially doing is you're saying, look, this represents all the possible numbers. When we start putting numbers underneath certain points on the number line, well, now we're giving that specific point a coordinate. The top number line here represents the coordinates of all of the natural numbers. Okay, the numbers 1, 2, 3. Remember, the natural numbers are all the positives, not including 0. The whole numbers include the number zeros and the positive. And then the integers include the whole numbers and their negative numbers. Okay, now we're not talking about any fractions here, no rational numbers. Now, but just maybe I'll ask you, where would those be? Well, remember, the rational numbers are the fractions, the ones in between, the ones that aren't even. So this space in between here are where all the rational numbers would lie, in addition to the ones that we have listed here. So a few definitions here that we need to be aware of. A coordinate is a number that's associated with a point. Okay, so any number that's associated with a point is called a coordinate. Now, if we're taking notes, we change color because we're going to go on to another topic. A graph is a picture of the number line of all real numbers. And in order to graph something, we draw a point on the number line, and then we give that point its coordinate. Okay, so to make a graph of a number 4, you draw the number line, you draw a point on the number line, and then you give it the coordinate 4, and you've now graphed that particular point on the number line. Okay, so graph is a picture of a particular point on the number line. Now, two numbers that are the same distance from 0 are what we call opposites. Now, here's the same distance from 0 on the number line, but in opposite directions are called opposites. Now, this is a very, very important concept, and it comes into play later on when we're looking at absolute value. But you'll notice the number 3. How far is that away from 0? Well, if I start at 0 and I go to the right 3 units, I end up at 3. Now, if I go back to 0 and I go the exact same distance to the left, I end at negative 3. So two numbers are considered opposite on the number line if their distance from 0 is the same. The only difference is one is to the right and one is to the left. Okay? So opposites are the same distance from 0. They're just going in different directions. Okay? So when we're looking at opposites then, opposites are the same distance from 0, and they just go in opposite directions, one to the right, one to the left. Okay? Now, integers, if you think about it, make up all of the whole numbers and then all of their opposites. So no matter how far I go to the right, the positive numbers, the whole numbers, if I go the opposite direction, the same distance for every single whole number, and I include all those is where we have this set of integers. So it's the whole numbers and their opposite is what makes up the integers. Now, a very important point here too is that the sum of any integer and its opposite is equal to 0. Okay, so if you take any integer that you'd like, 7, and you add to it its opposite, negative 7, you get a sum of 0. So the sum of any integer and its opposite is 0. Again, a very important concept that we'll use a lot when it comes to solving equations. All right. A couple other things we want to talk about before we end this video and then move on to comparing numbers. The positive integers are always going to be to the right of the number 0. So you find 0, you look to the right, those are your positive integers. You look to the left, and you have your negative integers. And again, seems obvious, seems probably something you've done before, but again becomes very helpful to us as we begin to look at some more complex types of concepts, is to understand positive is to the right, negative is to the left. Okay, so the positive number, or positive integer 3, is 3 units to the right. The negative integer, negative 3, is 3 units to the left. But notice that they're both 3 units. The distance is the same. The only thing that's different is their direction. Okay? So that's how we indicate numbers on a graph. In the next video, we'll look at how that helps us now compare numbers as to their size and where they lie on the number line.